Welcome to the Page Turner Adventures Creative Literacy Program, filled with crafts and activities that get kids excited about books and reading. We're going to make one of my favorite crafts, and that is the steampunk jewelry and keychains. And I love this because there's no right or wrong way to do it, and it's just a really creative project because you can use all different kinds of materials, you can put them together in all different ways, and you're just going to get a million different designs, and you're only limited by your imagination. So I'm going to show you some of the materials that I've used, and then I'm going to show you some of the projects that I've done, and then we're going to make one project. But again, there's really not, you know, an A, B, C, D to this kind of a project. You can just let your imagination go wild. So some of the things that you might want to use are, you know, just some pieces of junk. Dig in a junk drawer, dig in a toolbox, find little pieces. This is just an old broken piece from a clock. Steampunk uses a lot of you know, keys. You can use old keys, clock parts, watch parts if you can find them. So just dig around, find little pieces, gather all that stuff. Even if you don't know what it's for, just gather it and see what you come up with. Old buttons are fun. If you can find brass colored buttons, even if they're not real brass, these are actually plastic painted to look like brass, but that's fine too. You want to use some wire, definitely wire. Now, this is just some copper wire that I got at Home Depot. You can get lots of craft wire at the craft store that's easy to bend and cut. You can get different gauges. That's a little heavier. That's a little bit of a thinner gauge. You can get different colors, the silver, gold, copper. This is something that I like to use. These are these little glass beads from, you know, that you use in the bottom of a planter. And I got them at the dollar store, and they come in all different shapes and sizes and colors. And they're just a really fun thing to work with, and you get a huge amount of them. You get, you know, a big bag of them for $1. So there you go, those little glass beads. And then this is the secret ingredient, the secret weapon, the secret material. Washers. Washers are awesome. But my absolute favorite thing to use are these things. This is called a lock washer. And I love this because it looks like a gear. In steampunk, you have a lot of gears and clockwork parts, but sometimes the gears and clockwork parts are hard to find. You'd think that it would be easier to find watch parts, but it's actually kind of hard to find them. So these little lock washers look like gears. So they come in little bags like this, and you'll find these where you'll find the washers. Then there's another style. It's this style. And that is the lock washer with the interior tooth. So you see it's just a slightly different shape where the teeth are going in, but it's still a great thing to use. So these just work beautifully to make some different designs, and they glue nicely. And they're so cheap. They're just so inexpensive. And again, it's probably something that a lot of people have in their toolboxes. So washers and lock washers. Okay, you're also going to want to use, I mentioned paint, some gold spray paint or brass colored spray paint or any kind of metallic spray paint you can find. You can also use acrylic paint, which comes in great metallic colors. I like the spray paint, it works a little bit easier, but these are fine too. Then just some other things that you have around. These little glass beads or different kinds of beads are just a really nice thing to use. We have the glass beads. And then other stuff. Keys, I mentioned keys, and I actually painted that key gold. These little hinges are fun to work with. You might want to grab some little pin backs because you're going to make jewelry, so you want to use some pin backs or key rings. Or you can also grab some jewelry cord so that we can make some necklaces, and you can get all this at a craft store, or just use some regular twine or string. Okay, so that's the basic materials, but also you're going to need a few other items. You're going to need some pliers and something to be able to cut some wire with, so tools. And then the glue. The glue is something also that we need. Now there's different kinds of glue that you can use. You can use hot glue or the low temp glue. This is the low temp hot glue, which is kind of an oxymoron, but it's the low temp hot glue, and this works very well. If you're comfortable using that with your teens, that's up to you, depending on the age that you're working with, or if you want to help them do that, that's an option. But my favorite glue to work with is actually the super glue. This is great stuff. It works really, really well. So I really like the super glue, but again, your comfort level with it, because it does stick fingers together, you know, and the kids might, depending on your group, if they're gonna start sticking things all over the place, be careful, because once it sticks, it really does not unstick. You can use gloves if you're working with this. That's really a good option. If you don't wanna use the super glue or crazy glue, you can also use this is another one called Duco, not sure how to pronounce it, cement. And it's not really it's like a cross between rubber cement and super glue. This is also a really good option because it's not quite as sticky. It doesn't immediately stick to your hands. So it's not gonna dry as quickly, but it does dry within about 5 minutes or so. So this is really a very good option. So before we do that, I do want to show you a few of the projects that I have done. So I made some little pins, and you can see that these are made out of washers. These are just the regular washers. That one I painted gold, this one I did not. And then I used those little lock washers. This one I used one of in the middle, and then another one on top, and then one of the little glass beads. And I think that looks really cool. I love these things. I like this pin a lot. This one, I used some little parts that were from a clock that I had pulled apart. So there you go for that one. This is another pin, and this pin, again, using those glass beads. The base for this one is a key. I just use it as the base. Now you'll look at this little glass bead, and there's a picture underneath. We're gonna make some magnets a little bit later, and that is just one of these glass beads, and then I used a picture on the back. This one is a magnet, but it's the same idea. And then you can use that to create your jewelry. I also used a key to make this little necklace. So the base is a key, and then I just glued on more of these little glass beads. I love these glass beads. I think they look like jewels, and there's just something kind of funky about them. So I think that's just a cool little necklace. Okay, this one's a little bit more complicated, but again, the base is a washer. Then this is just one of those brass plastic looking buttons, some wire, some lock washers, and a bead, and you've got a really cool steampunk necklace. Now this is one of my absolute favorite projects, and this is the one that we're going to make today. This is my little robot, and he is made out of an Altoid tin. I love those little Altoid tins. Those are really also a very good base to work with. And what I already did was took an Altoid tin and spray painted it gold. What's nice about this too is you can put all of the supplies in the box for the teens and then give them their own little box, and they can pull it apart and start putting things together if you want to do it that way. Or you can just have the stuff laid out and let them go crazy and do what they want. But I have all of my supplies in my little Altoid tin, and we are going to make that little steampunk robot. Instead of using this side, I'm going to use the back because it's a nice flat surface. And I am going to use the super glue for this. Okay, now the last step for this is going to be to wrap some wire around the outside so that it can be used as a necklace or as a keychain. Or you could also put a pin back on it and make it a little pin if you want, but I'm going to wrap the wire around it. So you're going to be careful when you're putting this on that you don't glue your case closed, because it's fun if you can actually open your case, because then it's kind of like a little locket. So there we have it, little steampunk robot. It could be a necklace, it could be a keychain, whatever you want it to be. Have fun with this. There's so many things that you can do. Enjoy and be creative.
For more great crafts and activities, visit our blog at pageturneradventures.com.